everybody, and welcome back to the One Piece Virgin Egghead Book Club Podcast, Volume 14, covering chapters 118 through 126. That's right, I would have to say that a certain somebody has gone up in my ranking, and a certain somebody else on the crew has stumbled their way down. We'll get to that. Eggy, we're in the thick of the Island of Giants here, Little Garden, not such a little story anymore. What's going on, Eggy?
Well, it just seemed like our good friend Dory, he was sipping on some good, like a 100-year-old giant gamer should, and it was a little too much. It basically devastated his entire body, but Albeth called, divine protection, it seemed to be ceasing. Volcano went off, said it's time to fight, and he said, well, it is what it is. He went to fight, and he was felled by Broggy. He said, how was that ale? He's covered in blood, and his teeth are missing, but, he said, don't worry about it. It was pretty good or something, and here we go, let's fight. We've been fighting our 7,000th or 74,000th battle.
Now, here's my problem with Dory's plan here. Luffy is trying to stop him from throwing his life away, because it's an unfair fight now. And Dory says, you know what, this giant 3 billion ton skeleton, I'm going to lift it up and tuck your body underneath so you're trapped. And then I'm going to go off and get killed. So, wait, he's leaving Luffy for dead? I thought he earned his respect when he beat his ass with the Gum Gum Rocket.
I kind of felt like when he hit him with that, I was like, thinking back to my commentary on the previous volume where there was going to be kind of like a good-natured ha-ha hee-hee. Not so much good nature in this volume as it turns out.
The fight with Luffy and Dory?
Well, that was probably one of the least subversive, interactions here. Because, he kind of, I didn't mean to do that, and then they kind of had their fight, and he's like, I got other stuff going on, so yeah, I guess I don't really know what
was the subversive. What were you suggesting with that?
Well, we just have so much, psychological trickery going on throughout the rest of the volume, whereas this is just a very upfront, raw power 1v1. It starts off on not the best foot, but it kind of is resolved to some degree. I guess, to be honest, I have really nothing of what he thought Luffy was going to do under this rock because he still stays under there from a large part of the volume.
He needs homeboy Karu to dig him out. So did Dory have that foresight that Karu will come dig Luffy out? I don't think so. I think that was a giant-brained move, and that is not a
he might have been knocked a little bit loose, just like how his teeth were knocked a little loose from the explosion. Maybe he was just like, hey, you know what? This kid's bothering me. He's taking me away from my destiny at the volcano. Whatever, listen, we've all had those days where there's something that is kind of nagging you, so you tuck it under a heavy object so it stops breathing. Stops interrupting whatever you'd rather do. It's the same thing I do when the government keeps finding me. I just keep not paying it. So
if I immediately walk off to my death and somebody else has to handle the thing I swept under the rug, so be it. It's not my problem anymore. Eggy, before we dive into this volume and get what's top of mind, unless that was what that just was, we do have a few new members of the measly crew that you need to give designations to. I hope you've been studying up. What do you think of, this might be an obvious one, Punished Slave?
Well, it is what it is. It's like 1,500. We still got them. Listen, now that you're on the crew, we're going to reduce that punishment. In fact, you know what? Maybe you're going to be actually having freedom also. But this is how you're coming to us. You came into our crew with some other loot. We took some barrels of gold, and then also you, because you were there.
He was part of the loot, yeah.
You're not. Yeah.
Could he be like a Kobe chore boy, cabin boy?
Yeah, that's probably better.
He could be the assistant to the poop deck guy. He's his underling. The apprentice poop deck cabin boy.
The poop intern?
Yes. With a name like Punished Slave, he clearly wants to be punished. Like, he chose this username. He'll probably come when he hears this.
We're going to figure it out. He's punished right now. He was punished to the point that he was traded with, common inanimate objects with a dollar sign attached. We're going to figure it out a little bit. But right now, we're going to try to get you some skills. We're going to try to educate you, just like when you go to college and prison. That's basically what you're doing on our ship.
Okay, what about Fawaz? F-A-W-A-Z. Fawaz.
Okay, sounds like he's from the Middle East, Blue. I think, listen, I think we said we had a cook already. Did we have a chef already? I forget a little bit.
We could have more than one. Our crew's getting pretty big.
Well, I was going to say, obviously...
Our crew is big and it keeps getting bigger. That's because Aggie Christ is my co-captain. Word, yo.
What?
I was going to say Nika, but you wouldn't have understood that instead of Jesus.
Well,
damn it! That's because Jesus Christ is my Nika. Oh my God! Oh, it writes itself, and I missed it. And I did accidentally. So we're gonna give Fawaz the Middle Eastern dish chef role.
Listen, just like diversity is a beautiful thing in real life because it gives us such good food. Hey, you know what? We're taking these tried and true principles to the Measly crew. I need my halal chicken and rice with white and red sauce. Thank you.
We do have Demented Dust Skull, who I know well, and he wanted to be the musician. He thought it'd be funny to have a skeleton musician, so I said that's fine. And finally, we have Purple, not to be confused with our dear friend, the Purple Colonel.
That's a good one. Well, purple is the color of royalty, and you know what? You want to look the role that you want to have. Therefore, logically, he's in charge of outfits.
He could be like our Mr. Nine, who's wearing a king's crown, but he's not actual royalty. He's just kind of cosplaying. Little does he know his partner is actually a princess. Spoiler alert from last time.
Okay.
Purple.
He's a tailor.
Tailor, perfect. Make us some good costumes. Make sure that they match our superpowers, much like Edna Mode in The Incredibles. And no capes, none of that nonsense. Although Luffy does look cool with a captain cape. It's like a coat. And we'll get to that in chapter 1000 anyway. I should point out, there is a brand new Measly Crew exclusive Discord server. If you become a member of the channel, $3, not only do you get all these episodes early, but now there's a Discord just for us to talk about One Piece. I always dreamed of having a server just for One Piece that actual fans are in to talk about it. In my treehouse and like main Simi and Jimmy server, there is a One Piece channel, but I think maybe it gets 3 comments a day, or not a day, like a week. If a chapter came out, maybe somebody will say something. So the fact that this new one is so active, and some people had difficulty figuring out how to do it. You got to connect your Discord to your YouTube channel, and maybe you have to disconnect again. But mostly people have figured it out. There's like 10 people in there so far. And Aggie, I did make a virgin channel and a spoiler channel because I know you were worried about joining. And I think if this podcast is for new and old fans alike, surely the server should be too. So, but I don't know if we don't really have too many mods in there to make sure people aren't spoiling in the wrong channel. So I don't know.
It's going to be like when, listen, you know what? Sorry to say, this isn't the Harry Potter podcast, so who cares? Snape killed Dumbledore. Oh my goodness. True. That's right. I remember we were screaming it 17 years ago at those people.
Yeah, but One Piece is fun if you don't have some of those big spoilers. There's definitely Snape killed Dumbledore types of things you could say in One Piece that kind of make like entire arcs less impactful. But then again, fuck it, I still enjoy reading it for the 8th time, so it's got to be good regardless if you're spoiled or not. We do have some comments. The Poopy Doopy, we were just talking about our Poop Deck King. He said, I think the Japanese are more lenient on whalers since it's a favorite pastime of theirs. Eggy, was I being too harsh on Vivi for trying to whale up our dear friend Laboon?
Well, I was looking at it more for the assumed period of time because, how are you supposed to light your lamp? Like right now, you'd be sitting in the dark if you didn't have some good ambergris to light your candles with or whatever. And allegedly, wasn't that something delicious also? Maybe they like moisturized with it. In any case, the whale, frankly, I think we should probably bring whaling back. It's buy your permits. You can only shoot so many whales a month or whatever and keep it under control. I mean, they have so many good resources. I think it would be really good for us to start whaling again. But I wasn't even thinking about it in that way of the geographical thing. But if they have a history of whaling more than other places, that's news to me because I didn't pay attention in school. Good to know.
I think the Japanese might go for endangered species a lot more than we do, maybe. But
I thought that was China. Don't they like grind up rhinoceroses?
Yeah. It's a lot of the Asian countries. To be fair, we did drop a few nukes on their country. So what are a few dead whales? I think it's about even on the moral scale. But so maybe it's just because Laboon is like a humanized character, like he understands speech, so it's a little different from killing just a mindless creature, as I assume real world whales are. But
I thought they were the most intelligent animals in the entire world.
Yeah,
but
if you're dumber than me, like I can so easily disregard your life. So it is what it is. It's called being an apex predator, Aggie. And one other comment, Nick Challenge Man says, "Evil baby shitting in a amusement park." That's a JoJo reference, baby. Do you know this JoJo reference?
I do not. I am now somewhat familiar with the shitting baby of the Yu-Gi-Oh reference due to the fact that you sent me the page where this happens.
Yeah, I did look it up because I wanted to refresh myself, and nobody commented about this yet, so hopefully I beat them to the punch. I did get the story wrong. Yeah, the evil baby does not shit on one of our main characters. He is being babysat by the characters. I think it's like Joey's cousin or something. I really should have looked that up. I just read the one chapter with the shit. But they're on like some sort of thing where they're all strapped in and can't move, and if they make a noise, then they get shocked to death and die. And like this is just like Seto Kaiba fucking with them, and nobody cares. You know, he's a millionaire. He can torture people, and then like to help them get out of it, the baby, who is not trapped because he's sitting on Teia's lap, crawls over and shits on the lap of the guy operating the ride, but he's strapped in too. So when he screams from the shit, he gets electrocuted and dies. That happens in chapter 20 of Yu-Gi-Oh! A man gets shit on and screams and gets killed. And then I think the very next chapter is when they put their hands in a circle and draw a smiley face with a Sharpie marker. That iconic thing is right after a man is electrocuted after getting shit on, Aggie. That's Yu-Gi-Oh!
I think I might have lost quite a bit from being an anime head in regards to the series. I think maybe I should be possibly reading that manga myself especially if we eventually would ever do any Yu-Gi-Oh fighting.
If we get bored with One Piece, or like there's a time skip and we want to do something else, or we just catch up, maybe we don't do Inuyasha, maybe we don't do JoJo, we just do the parts of Yu-Gi-Oh that are not the card game, because your mind will be blown by how fucked up those scenes get. Like Yugi kills people in every chapter. He kills them. and then they just start playing card games, and it's just tournaments.
Well, I mean, I played Forbidden Memories, which I didn't much care for, and that
game sucks.
It sure does.
Yeah, terrible. Aggie, what is top of mind now that we're 15 minutes in? And, this is when we actually dive into One Piece on this podcast for some reason. And you know what? We keep asking the Virgin what's top of mind. Why are we leaving me out? Okay, I realized I need to have top of mind things too. So we'll have you go first, and then maybe we'll see if you can guess. And maybe we'll have the same one. I don't know. There is something from this volume that shines so brightly to me that I still regard very highly, but go ahead.
Well, I guess now I don't know if you might have sprinkled a little bit of knowledge powder into my brain last time when my first thought was, oh, this exploded because this was improperly stored alcohol that had, unregulated gases inside the barrel. And he said, speaking of unregulated gases, he said, well, maybe somebody might have, followed them there. Well, that did appear to be the case, but actually, shockingly, Mr. 3 and Miss Golden Week appeared to have always been at Little Garden this whole time, from the very last chapter in the previous volume up until now. I figured they were off somewhere, perhaps Alabastia, someplace off, very far away. But that was not true.
But when we originally meet them at the tail end of the previous volume, we see what island they're on. It's some random named island that we never see again, as far as I know. But it seems as long as the Straw Hats have been here, they've been there. And I assume it was Miss All Sunday who told them where to go.
I also did think that is most likely, but I guess in any case, before I get to contemplating myself, this was definitely the biggest thing. It's like, oh shit, they're all here. Okay, they're all and they're trying to get this bounty from Dory and Broggy that is 100 million berries per giant. It's been 100 years out on this bounty, but they're aware of it. I guess they decided that this was the right time with the distraction of the Straw Hat crew. They're kind of walking around interfering, and they can kind of attack from the shadows. They keep on playing on this brains over brawn, psychological warfare angle in order to get what they want. But besides that, I would say Mr. 3 is a real son of a gun, I tell you. He kind of reminds me of Nezumi, which the Catman Marine, who was really just a infuriating man. He kind of feels like something of a prick here, I gotta say, Mr. 3. It's funny how he's the wax fruit and he's Mr. Candleman, and how his thing is that he's entrapping people in wax, because it just seems like throughout this volume, every single time that you're about to, you're expecting this grand climax, like, all right, here we go, and no more of that, and then he gets you trapped in something else. He's a real mucker, you might say. He's really mucking you up, and so he was really the shining light, no pun intended here, but in a bad way, of this volume, just really tearing it up with all of his trickery and his sick and devious ways.
He lit up your candelabra, is what you're trying to say.
Mm-hmm. And also the fact that Zoro starts, hacking his own legs off with a sword to try to get out of this.
You got it. That's what I was bringing in. Zoro chopping off his own legs, because it's better to be alive with no legs than to be dead. He's so fucking right. Oh my god, what an iconic moment. When we did the tier list, we had it Luffy, Sanji, Zoro. After this volume, Zoro's number 2. Sanji, he's behind Usopp now. He had slipped so far. Like, literally, Vivi and Nami are killed in this volume. Sanji's nowhere to be seen. Get fucked. What a piece of shit. But continue, Eggy, even though you hit what I was going to bring in. I want to hear you talk about it.
Well, just as you're reading through that chapter, you really feel the sort of futility. It's very palpable, and I don't know. I mean, I assume somebody's gonna die at some point. Zoro have robot legs, in like 2 volumes from now. I would have no idea. I can see that something's gonna happen, maybe. So I like, okay, well, I'm expecting him. He's like, all right, yeah, I'm gonna do it. And it's like the next panel is Usopp, Karu, and Luffy like bursting through, like, I'm gonna kill them all, let's go. And then
they overshoot it and go flying.
Yeah, they're kind of like, they take the attention, but then Zoro, all of a sudden, he's like, oh, why are your legs covered in blood? Oh yeah, well, I mean, I started,
You made it to the bone.
Like, geez, I mean,
yeah.
He, and then he does his onigiri, his flame onigiri, right? I believe.
Just because he's on fire.
Yeah. So he's able to do that. I don't know, I'm sure he's got a lot of adrenaline going here with the whole situation, but I'm feeling like, if Sanji ever gets around to finding where everybody's at, instead of, that's how this volume rounds out. Not to get ahead of myself here, but since he's just been basically sitting around doing nothing, he's still sitting around sipping tea in your hood. R.I.P. Triple X. But he's sitting in the Baroque Works house, He gets a phone call from Mr. Zero, but he's not been up to anything. I think he's got to step up. He needs to use his legs in place of Zoro's hacked stumps. I mean, he's still got his legs, but a lot of damage sustained is what I'm getting at. I think he's going to need some rest and recovery moving forward after this whole debacle is concluded, which, I guess we've come to expect from Zoro at this point. It seems to happen pretty continuously. He's a glutton for punishment. Not that he's asking for it, but he seems to just keep on. Well, I guess sometimes he's asking for it, but
he's a powerhouse, a brick house, ultimate tank. Chops his leg in half, and then we don't even hear about it again. He'll probably just be healed up from it later, and it'll be like it didn't even happen. But when you were talking about it, and you brought up Sanji, it made me think. If Zoro did chop off his legs, I mean, Zeph did that. And he's still fine. If Zoro had 2 peg legs, would that stop him from being a great swordsman? I don't know.
Guy,
maybe he's lighter now.
I'm trying to think. I don't think he's from Soul Calibur. There's definitely. I'm trying to think of what property it's from, but there's some media I've consumed before where there's a guy who I believe has blades for legs, and I don't know where. I
think there's a woman like that in the Kingsman 1 movie, but that might not be what you saw.
I forget. It was something a bit supernatural, perhaps. Definitely like a fantasy setting, I think.
If Zoro had swords for legs, then you could do 5 sword style. That's next level. Mihawk is dead.
Yeah, I mean, Luffy could grab him by the arms and just like swing him around. Straight up whirlwind attack.
And get Mihawk's little pocket knife and replace his penis with that 6 sword style.
Hey, you know what? Listen, he's working with something a little. We got to go machete at least, okay?
I don't know. When Oda gave nationalities to the Straw Hats, he said Zoro was Japanese. There's a reason why they're killing the biggest sperm whales they can find. They're jealous of something, Eggy.
Hey, well, it's hard for me to tell what they're working with. I've only seen those blurry videos, so...
Yeah, that's why they blur them out. They're so ashamed, Eggy. They don't want the world to know. They just want us to see some hot chick smiling at a blur. But should we go through it a little?
Most of the time they make it different, but anyway.
Should we go a little chronologically? Are you ready, Eggy?
I am.
Now, I was very much impressed in Volume 1, or Chapter 118, the fight with Luffy and Dory. I thought it was very epic when Luffy's like running up the giant sword and jumps up to punch him in the face and then just gets whammed, smashed down to the ground by the giant shield. It felt like an epic fight. Like, were you expecting this to be quite so legit?
No, I'll say I also did kind of a bit of a double parsing of the panels, like, when I was like, oh, that just happened. And then, it was definitely more balanced. But then also, I think, as I might have alluded to a little bit earlier, that was when I kind of realized, this wasn't going to be a good old-fashioned, like in the previous volume, Zoro and Luffy. It sounds like they're ready to fight to the death, but, at the end of it, they're like, oh, this is a good spar, good exercise. Haha, this is, you do have some good power. That's kind of the energy I was thinking I was going to go into this fight with. But it was more substantial than that. It was more like, hey, time to die, human, but...
And I think it's safe to say Luffy won, right? Like, it was clearly unfair because he's fighting a guy who just drank an exploding grog, but... and Luffy did hit him right in the dead center of his stomach where his insides are all exploded and torn up. But hey, it's a fight. That's how you do it in the pirate world. We found out Dory and Bragi used to be pirate captains, so all's fair. And I think Luffy won against the 100 million bounty giant.
Yeah, I have to say that that was very impressive, and especially as the context builds here. What I'm curious about is, so they come from this island, they've been exiled for this dispute until the dispute is resolved. Are they sort of unique in the fact that they are giant pirates, or they come from an island of giants? Are pirates prevalent on this island, or is it just like everything's regular like how it would be with any normal-sized people, but there just is some pirates, and maybe there's some giant bounty hunters, some giant chefs?
Now, I don't want to spoil things before the story gets to it, but the vast majority of giants are not pirates.
Well, that is good to know. And so I suppose we'd like to think that most humans aren't pirates either. Maybe we're just,
that's fair to say too.
Pirate-based story that we, are maintaining an orbit around piracy.
So what in chapter 118? What else do we have after Luffy beats him up? We get the reveal of Mr. Five and Miss Valentine showing up to the Wax Hut. And last volume, you reported that they had been killed. And I was like, wait, were they? Is that?
I believe that. I thought Mr. 3 perhaps mentioned it in in his cameo in that final chapter.
And if he did, I'm surprised he didn't mention anything about it at this meeting, like, you guys were spared or something like that.
Yeah, also, I only just now realized that was a wax hut. For some reason, I was thinking that it was an igloo. I don't know why.
Well, we do see a dinosaur bite it, and then all its teeth break. But you're not really... It is hard to tell, especially when you're just reading the manga, not seeing it animated.
Well, I wanted to just pull this up real quick here. So Miss Golden Week, this is in chapter 117 of the last volume. Orders from Mr. Zero is what Miss Golden Week is reading. Quote, it says Mr. 5 has been killed. Humph, they should have done Mr. 2 in as well. There's no reason to mourn Mr. 5. He was an overambitious fool who didn't realize his own limitations.
Yeah, that's
and
so
to
weird.
Be honest, I think that we kind of see that again here. He kind of does seem to be an overambitious fool who thinks that when Usopp says, I'm shooting something at you, he's taking his word for it. But a little ahead of ourselves here.
That's an amazing Usopp moment that is made pointless because then immediately Zoro has to jump in and save him. So I like that Usopp's like very barely helpful in all of this, but his main attribute here is the ability to tank attacks that should kill him, and he gets exploded like 4 times. He gets dropped on by the 10k ton fucking bitch.
Yeah. Up to 200 kilograms of pressure on that strike, which for he's not the bulkiest guy, so hey, whatever he's working with, I gotta respect that much, at least that didn't kill him instantly. Yeah.
Yeah, his main help was knocking Luffy to get the paint off of him, but we'll get to that later. We're still on 118. Eggy, last time I was like, okay, he's drinking Earl Grey tea. Surely that means this takes place in our world. You said no, that's not it. Okay, that's fair. This time he says, have some English tea, Eggy. Was that in your translation? He said, have some English tea. In this meeting, he says that to Mr. 5. Is England in the One Piece world, Eggy?
Well, I guess it must have to be based on that. Yeah.
What's going on?
Oh, I do see here. Yes, I double checked that, and he's talking about English tea.
Well, it could be. Maybe there's a country called Ingle, because I've been reading the Foundation series by Isaac Asimov, and there is a planetary system called Vega, okay? Vega, and they have tobacco. So what would you call tobacco that is from the region of Vega? It'd be vegan tobacco, right?
Okay, yeah. All right, that makes sense. Yeah.
But in the book, it looks like it says vegan tobacco. So it's very confusing.
Las Vegas, it's spelled Vega.
Yeah,
like vegan,
exactly.
Well, I just did a little bit of deep diving on English tea, and apparently it's black tea originating from Assam, which is India.
What?
Ceylon, which is Sri Lanka, and Kenya. So even though it's English tea, it's actually from Asia and Africa, apparently.
That is the most British thing ever, that their English tea is just stolen from India. You fucking losers. That's
maybe
pathetic.
Maybe it's meant to be some kind of imperialist tea, like, so maybe the Baroque Works, they're overthrowing these kingdoms.
Yeah.
And they're, whatever
trying to make a utopia.
Freed. Yeah, maybe Alabasta's been in the wrong all along. Maybe these are actually heroes. They're freeing all the oppressed people and drinking their tea. I don't know.
Do you have an inkling what country or region Alabasta will be based on?
Well, it sounds like it could be English. It sounds, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Don't be Googling.
Well, no. Okay, well, yeah, Alabaster. I just know this because there's Alabaster plate mail in World of Warcraft, which is a very desired, at least in my day, was a very desired role-playing set because it mimics Imperial Guard armor. So you think of something that is imperial, royal, of a higher status, maybe more powerful. That's what I would think, because just of the similarity to Alabaster, I'm sure that's what it's based off of. But a higher grade, I don't want this to sound strange when I say like white purity, but I mean like white as in we know like a clean, high status. Like, just not dirty, you know what I mean? Like, when I say wet, I'm not necessarily referring to...
Like the kingdom in the Frozen movies.
Yeah, just something that is well-maintained, orderly, established, if you kind of dig what I'm saying, that's just powerful.
So, yeah, Alabasta will be sort of British aristocracy, castle, kingdom sort of place. That's the prediction number 1.
That is my prediction, yes.
Okay. Did you see in the cover art of the volume that Vivi, or maybe it's the next one actually, but Vivi has blue hair. Did you know that?
I only noticed that in the cover art of the volume because I had to stop. The same way I think when I saw Nojiko's hair color for the first time, like, who's that? Oh, yeah. So I was like, oh, is this a new character? Well, that kind of looks like Vivi. Yeah, it's probably Vivi, yeah.
Mr. 3 says, over 100 years ago, there was a band of giant pirate warriors who ravaged the seas, burned towns, and terrorized the world, led by Dorian Broggie. Now, it's over 100 years ago. None of these characters were anywhere close to alive. Is this just hearsay, Eggy, or do you believe that these amiable, joyful, kind giants, could they have actually terrorized innocent people like that?
Well, maybe perhaps their exile was not just maybe I could say this because they say, oh, it's about a dispute. We needed to be exiled until we settled our dispute. Maybe they were ran off or exiled or had some other reason than what they're letting on. And they were just sort of spending their time here doing what they enjoyed, which was fighting. Maybe they never even sought to necessarily have a victory over one another. But it was kind of just all they knew at that point after they had caused such a terror and maybe needed to relocate for their own benefit. That's probably about the best thing I could say that would make sense with the line of them terrorizing people and them just kind of, being kind of chill at this point because they're like, oh, we're out of the game. We're doing what we like. We have our spot here. And
kind of like Zeph again, where he used to be a terror and now he's a chill. He's grown up. He's a chill guy now.
Yeah, perhaps they faced a greater strength than their own. It was a bit of a humble pie being served, and they're like, all right, you know what? We got our island. You stay on this side, I'll stay on that side, and we'll fight. And eventually we'll, if one of us dies, we'll be a warrior's death, and then that's probably my best guess with that line of thinking. I guess I don't know what the victor would do if he just roams around the island for the rest of his life, or maybe he would.
I think he'll get to go home.
Yeah.
Next chapter 119. Usopp elaborates more on how these giants are inspiring him and his dream. He says, I want to be a man who can be proud of the way he lives, even if someday I lose everything and face death alone on a deserted isle. I'll die proud of the way I lived, and I'll say I am Usopp, a brave warrior of the sea. Eggy, did this inspire you? Do you want to live the way Usopp wants to live?
Probably. I would say people would say that might not be the most well thought out or intelligent, kind of the same way there's been times in my life where I've just maybe not always made the most rational decision. Listen, if you're walking around and I've been rationally analyzing some of these chapters and volumes to the best of my ability, but sometimes you just gotta, quote unquote, crash out. I think that's what the youth say. Sometimes you just gotta do something that it just feels right to do. Like maybe go to the casino or drink an entire liter of booze. Maybe it's not smart or the odds are not in your favor, but hey, you know what? All the greatest heroes in folklore.
Well, it's not really about
waiting.
It's not about making a smart decision. It's about being proud of your decisions, and he wants to. Yes. He wants to make decisions he can be proud of because he usually does the cowardly thing. So, are you saying you're proud that you can drink a whole handle and lose $500 at the casino?
It's I think. Taking it in, it's a modern day analogy because we don't necessarily have a lot of these wars. Some people might even say they're all funded by bankers or something. You know, they have, there's not a real rush. There's not a real razor's edge you're walking on. I like to walk the razor's edge sometimes. So I feel like there's a feeling there, a lively feeling that is similar to these great adventures and risky endeavors where you're giving it all that you're proud of. But I respect it, and maybe I have different ways about it. Maybe it's not necessarily drinking and gambling, and maybe it's not fighting giants either, but in my heart of hearts, I want to cast rocks at giants in a way and for reasons that I, just like Usopp, can be proud of, even if it kills me.
I wonder if this moment of inspiration is what gives him the strength to endure all of the horrible attacks that he has to face later on. Like maybe, because he could have just decided to lay down and die after any of those. There was one point where every single member of the crew had been defeated and was just kind of laid out. And I was shocked when Usopp got up after getting bombed by Mr. Five like twice in a row. He's still going. So maybe he would die with regret if he didn't get up and help Luffy get back into action. Maybe that's why that's the order the story's being told. I don't know. Does that play out? Is that Usopp's motivation here?
Well, just kind of like in the same way, I think everything that happens preceding this, where they're seeing these illusions in the forest, and I think his nerves are getting his adrenaline really worked up, and I think it all plays into, he's got the track in his mind, I will die for a reason that I can justify, I'm proud of, and then all of a sudden shit starts popping off, the adrenaline's rising up, and he goes into a fight or flight. Now, yes, he's doing a bit of flight here, to be fair. In fact, probably more flight than fight, but it's still activating. He's not willing to lay down and die because there's still a lot of stuff popping off. So I think his body is adjusting to that environment, and it is giving him more than what he might have otherwise.
And I think Oda likes to turn weaknesses into like a necessary element to save the day. For example, Usopp running away from the fight is directly responsible for Luffy getting his back scuffed, and then the black paint was off him. He can get back into... I mean, he did go straight into a picnic after that, I think, but still, Usopp's cowardice was necessary to continue everybody's lives. So this chapter ends with Mr. 3. He's not satisfied enough. He wants to interfere even more. So he's putting wax to make Dory slip so that Brogy can go for the final kill. And one thing about Dory I really appreciated, he does not want to admit that he's been weakened. He straight up says, yeah, that ale, that was the nectar of the gods, baby. Delicious. Could not complain a little bit. What do you think of this? Because Brogy goes on a speech later on about how, well, it would have been dishonorable to him if I didn't fight my hardest when he was clearly weakened. But I feel like if Dory wants Brogy to feel the sense of honor and to be fair to him, he should have been honest about it from the start. Because what warrior wants to win a fight unfairly? And he did feel a lot of regret and horrible pain about it when he learned the truth. What the fuck was Dory thinking? This is not the honorable way to go.
Well, I do agree with your take there, but also I have to say the fact Dory, I think if Brogy had pointed out, oh, like you have a wound or whatever, obviously, he might not have been willing to even accept that. He might have sat there and Brogy could have laid his arms down or something and maybe just taken a completely defensive stance, and Dory might have still, swung himself silly until he was tired and collapsed anyway.
Why are they allowing this volcano to make their life choices for them? Like, it is more appealing to the honor of the volcano than the honor of his warrior brother in arms.
Well, they're both, they have to abide by the will of Elbath, which apparently is instilled into their physical realm by a volcano blowing up.
Now, what do we think of this? Religion in One Piece. We don't know if there's any true religion, any true gods. Do we think this god of Elbath is real? And because Dory's interpreting what happened to him as Elbath taking away some sort of divine judgment or belief in him, when really it's just he got poisoned by Mr. 3 telling Mr. 5 to put a bomb in the thing, so...
Well, actually, you know what? I'll say this, because Baroque Works is a bounty hunter organization. They're destabilizing Alabastia, but they're a bounty hunter organization from what's my understanding. Brogy and Dory did enough things in the past to, even 100 years ago, have a 100 million berry bounty. I don't know if there's inflation in One Piece, but...
Do you want me to tell you?
This is still... Well...
There is inflation.
Okay, so this
and that was revealed like 2 weeks ago for us. That there's inflation to bounties. To us, like the modern day readers, not to you and me.
Oh, okay. I thought it was going to be like the fact that they've been increasing steadily. But, so this is, okay, well, we don't know that now, but we do know, I guess, in general. But even so, without inflation playing a role here, 100 years ago, 100 million berries. So these, Brogy and Dory, they racked up a rap sheet. They did allegedly incredible terrorism and slaughtered people willy-nilly, allegedly. So, that callous act from the past gave them this bounty of an immense amount, which gained the attention of devious, cunning, subversive tricksters that are also bounty hunters, and they're not willing to play fair. And this is what happened. So perhaps in a roundabout way, this was losing Elbath's favor. Maybe something they did in the past was so grievous that Dory was the one who was divinely chosen to suffer that punishment. Just a thought.
So we hear it first, people. Eggy is an Elbath truther. He believes in the god Elbath and his judgment. It's all real. It could be. It could be. Eggy.
That would be my best guess, but I think the logic tracks. They wouldn't be being chased down by the bounty hunters if they didn't have a bounty from what they did, and it's what happened.
So Mr. 3, he can make his wax harder than steel. He uses it to make like a giant hammer-esque ankle something to trap your feet. He traps Brogy's feet in the wax. And later on, it's going to be even more brutal when he has giant like blades stabbing through his hands and feet to trap him to the ground.
Yep.
Absolutely brutal shit. Like so much blood spilled, not just from Zoro here. And we need to talk about Karu. The time has finally come to talk about Karu, Eggy. He was severely beaten and tortured because they wanted him to get Vivi's attention to trick her, and he refused to do it. Is this S-tier character already, Eggy?
Well, I have to say, throughout the entire volume, his ranking shot up immensely. This is like how Bitcoin just hit $90,000 today.
Oh my god.
48% this year or something like that. Some insane gains.
I saw Dogecoin was up 112% in a week.
Allegedly, they said that Donald Trump made the Doge department, like the Department of Doge, headed by Elon Musk.
Department of Government Efficiency.
Yeah, so the AKA DOGE.
Yeah.
And ran by Elon Musk.
Would be nice if I didn't sell my Doge a couple of years ago, huh, Iggy? Oops.
It is what it is.
What makes me feel better about that kind of thing is that I know I would have sold it when it spiked a month ago. Like, there's no way I was ever going to sell it at whatever the peak ends up being. So no matter what, I'm going to fuck myself. So might as well just live with what I got, you know?
Yeah, you know what?
Can't imagine that all that money would have actually been mine. If only I would have sold at the exact perfect time. Mm-hmm. It is what it is, life too.
It don't go down that way. You know, at best, you'd sell to get your initial investment back and have some extra sitting in the vault. But anyhow,
would have been smart.
So, with that being said, you know what, Karu, I was, if I had done a tier list before this volume, I think he would have been my, selling before he hits his peak. I would have probably not given him his due, but he really comes through. And I gotta say, I don't know. I mean, he's a cool duck. As I'm reading the panels where they're, harming him like that, I don't know, maybe it's just because I wasn't in the right mindset. I didn't necessarily have such a stark emotional response as I did with like Choo Choo or Chow Chow. There was an emotional response there, but I wasn't I didn't feel like an actual deep grief. I was just more like, oh, damn bastards. Because I already had such an anger, I think, building towards Baroque Works, that it was more of a reason for me to hate them versus, taking my time to grieve for this suffering that Karu went through. And then he gives them to be honest, he's becomes more stronger resolve than Sanji in this volume. I mean, he's doing more for the team. He's coming through a lot more than really bringing it to the table. And I ain't talking about a delicious roasted duck. I'm talking about he don't give a
Yeah, so, I was touched by his supreme loyalty to Vivi. Because, we don't really understand how these characters know each other. She just rides a duck. So for him to have enough characterization that he's protecting her while being tortured is pretty... It's a big step up, like you're saying. He's rising up the ranks very quickly, and we'll see if he can maintain that in future volumes. He does save the day, several times here. He digs Luffy out when he's trapped under the skeleton thing. And he knocks into Luffy. He helps Usopp run away from some stone cold killers. Anything else from Karu that we should mention?
Well, I almost see a parallel here to Usopp, because as we had in the previous volume, as they're escaping Whiskey Peak, Karu, he's running to the ship ahead of time, and Vivi's, hey, where'd he go? He's on the ship already. So he's kind of looking out for himself there, but now when it's a real do or die situation, you know what, he can step up to the plate and he can give more, be more selfless in his duckish ways. Just in the same way where Usopp, he ran away at Arlong Park, but when the going got tough, that tough man got going, and that tough duck got going and did what they need to do. And S tier, I don't know. We're going to have to consider there, but definitely an increase so far.
We had, let's see, who did we have in S tier that is comparable to, I don't know.
The Straw Hat Crew, Arlong.
We're only 3 volumes into the Alabasta saga, so hopefully by the end we'll have a clearer picture on where Karu belongs in the scheme of things. Aggie, are we ready to talk about this epic set piece of the giant candelabra that is turning our heroes into wax from the inside out?
Yes. So Mr. 3, he's not just a man who can lock your feet up in wax. No, he can lock you in eternal wax suffering from the inside out through the grand, gigantic candelabra that he's able to create with his wax artistry of this big monument he places Vivi, Nami, and Zoro at the base of this grand monument, which then begins spinning and letting off all these little flecks of wax that, just like raindrops, begin to accumulate not just on these 3 heroes, but also they're breathing in the wax, or it's attacking their airway in some form and solidifying them also from the inside, which I guess if it accumulates fast enough, I would think that body heat might be enough to maybe, melt it, especially if it's internally. But it's building up, and he says he's going to make them into wax figures. and capture them in the peak of agony, torment, fear, misery. So this guy, Mr. 3, I mean, he's not just extremely handsome and has really good long hair. He's really a calculating mofo. I mean, from the beginning, he's talking about brains over brawn, but this guy, I think he might be a bit neurotic. Maybe his ponytail is wound a little too tight. He's just really got this sadistic idea of how to defeat his enemies. He is quite the antithesis to the honor of the Elbathian warrior giant code.
True. That is a good thematic juxtaposition of characters conflicting. And Mr. 3, he's left-brained and right-brained because he is a very logical tactician, but also he respects art and he considers himself an artist, and he having a wax power that is not only physically powerful, but also he can make this big, beautiful candelabra with it's very showman-y. He's got like a weird pumpkin jack-o'-lantern design on the top. And he wants to turn them into statues. He wants to turn them into pieces of art. Surely he could finish off these foes who were trapped in a much faster, easier way. But yeah, he's sadistic. He wants them to be slowly tortured, and he wants to make them art. And the fact that Oda has to put all these interesting character elements into him as an excuse for why the characters aren't dying faster, it all works out perfect.
Yeah, it's you don't even, at least for me personally, it's like you're just so, it's very gripping. It's a real suspenseful, edge of your seat kind of thing, because they don't have anybody at first to help them out. They're really just there, and they're trying to contemplate anything they can. And then finally, they do get Luffy and Usopp showing up, but Mr. 5 is on the scene to give Usopp a run for his money with Karu, and then Luffy is immediately targeted by Miss Golden Week with her Colors Trap powers, which is really, I think, what is that, chapter 123 maybe? Or 24? I forget which one specifically, but one of those chapters. It ends with he's just standing before them. They're basically at like 99% defeated. And they're like, oh, Luffy, yes, here we go. And he goes, I don't really want to save you. And they're like,
I don't feel like it anymore.
But see, what I thought here, before we get into the colors trap things, is, was that one in chapter 118, 119, where they're seeing each other in the forest, and I might have, maybe this is a Miss Golden Week trick. I don't know if I quite understood it. But they're like, oh, there you are, Luffy. And then he kind of is like, it's not actually him. He's like kind of looking down. He's got the telltale marks down the side with like the eye shadow over his eye that, in manga or anime that lets you know that actually it's lay bad.
Evil doppelganger.
So that's almost what I thought at first. I was like, oh, they have doppelgangers in the garden and out in the forested area. Was this actually a doppelganger? But that's not what it turns out to be. Miss Golden Week, she basically has, harkening also, once again, back to the previous volume where Igarapi, he had the decoys with the certain symbols painted on them that were supposed to then be viewed as a disguise or a decoy of sorts. Now she's got her colors trap painting with certain symbols that then have it's actually based on the color, but it seems to be also with the symbol, has an impact on the person who is receiving that paint from her. It's going to impact their logic, their decisions, their mental state in some way.
And do you think that this is a devil fruit power or something else going on?
I don't think it's a devil fruit power. It would make sense that it is, and I know we said this before, that if something doesn't seem to make sense any other way, it's probably a devil fruit power. But I feel like with the symbolism, I feel like that has some kind of impact. Just in the same way where people do magical rituals, they draw certain symbols for it. I think that the symbol here is playing some kind of role with her ability, but she probably has devil fruit power. I always seem to like to go fantastical when it's always so plainly, obviously, a devil fruit power.
Well, this is one of the times you were right on the money. She does not have one. This is, I guess, considered to be a form of hypnotism like Django was, even though we deciphered Django always had a devil fruit anyway, but it is what it is. They say that the colors she's using are so vivid that that I guess like you're forced to feel them, but when it's on his back you can't even see it. Like how is like the paint on the back of his shirt affecting him when he can't even see it or feel it because it is on his shirt? That's confusing to me, but they needed a way for him to burn the thing off of him, so of course it had to be on his clothes. Maybe the hardest laugh I had was when it cuts to Luffy enjoying a picnic with her, and the three people dying start screaming at him with their big sharp teeth. That was perfect.
Yeah. And I think it does such a quick cut, like, and this is a thing that I think is really consistent throughout this whole fight over these like 6-7 chapters of the combat, is they don't give you any of that, like any breathing room, no pun intended here with the wax. It's not like oh, yes, not free. What? Oh, no, he's free. Oh, quick, we gotta... it's more just like, oh, I'm free. All right, here we go. Oh, I know. Never mind. I'm screwed again. God damn it.
Yeah, there's an amazing little moment that I hope they do this in the live action for season 2, because I can just imagine that Itaraki, whatever his name is, that actor doing this. But since they cut out Django, for all I know, they're going to cut out fucking Miss Golden Week, because they hate fun. But when he's having the picnic and like he's struggling so intensely against it, but he can't stop. He's like, "This tea is good." Like I love that. I can't wait to see the actor do it if they actually adapt that. It's such a funny looking panel, and I can feel Luffy's struggle there.
Yeah, it was interesting because when he's saying, never mind, I don't care about this, he's not expressing that strained emotion then, but yeah, then there he is, so that I was kind of like, wasn't sure about that, if there's like different levels, like maybe that particular color, maybe it's not his shade, so it's not hitting him as hard, he's still not doing what he should do, but is he able to...
Well, this was right after all three of them were completely waxed statues now, so like maybe seeing his friends have actually died, he's fighting harder than ever before against it.
I think that makes sense, yeah. Power levels increasing, the spirit bombs building up inside of him.
We skipped this. We skipped this little moment, but Mr. 3 does trap Luffy's legs in the wax hammer, but he uses it to his advantage to smash the candelabra, which does not destroy it, just makes it go faster. Like, he just knocked it down closer to them, so... Yeah,
I kind of felt bad for Brogy here, because he, like, wraps his arms, like, around the wax sword that is in Brogy's hand to use as, like, a point of leverage to spin his feet around, and Brogy's like...
And Brogy and Zoro, when they're deciding not to die, like, they share some really cool moments, and like just looking at each other, there's some good glances that they share of, no, we're not gonna die here, I'm gonna cut off my limbs and keep fighting, and you should too. And like Zoro kind of inspires Brogy not to give up, and of course Luffy comes to save the day, but I like that little moment.
I think it's really cool. They have a couple panels, maybe even a few, where it's Brogy and the wax is accumulating, so it's only about half of his face is, the way that he's laying down on the ground. And he's kind of like, he's making that eye contact with Zoro as they're talking, but like, even though that, like, this half his face, he's like still kind of like peeking out and like kind of, with the half his face that he's able to still control. So I thought that was a stylistically a good choice to depict it that way.
And I so many cool things with Brogy here, like the horrible grief and pain he feels when he learns the truth. But even before that, like after he wins and he announces, 74,000 battles and 1 victory, and he's weeping, and Mr. 3 completely, maybe Mr. 3's like a severe autistic sociopath, because he misinterprets the tears, and he thinks that they're tears of joy that he vanquished his foe. And Brogy's like, you do not understand my tears, you motherfucker. Lots of good stuff with him. He might end up higher than Dory on my tier list. I mean, we're getting a lot more drama and pain and suffering from this character. Dory's kind of down for the count.
Yeah, I would say, it's no fault of Dory's that this just happened to play out this way, but we do get more from Brogy, more development from him that is gonna naturally sort of give him a greater ability to chart higher.
I did disrespect Usopp earlier in this podcast by mistake. He does not only him and Karu smear the paint off of Luffy's shirt, but he does have the genius idea to shoot his fire star at Luffy to burn his shirt off. I forgot he did that. So yeah, he did literally save everybody's lives with that one brilliant move. And then also, yeah, like you mentioned, the trick on Mr. 5. Oh, you can eat my gunpowder flame star just fine. Okay, I'll pretend I'm shooting that. It's actually the hot pepper that was teased at the beginning of what arc? I don't know, a few arcs ago, right? We saw him get the hot sauce in his eyeball, right?
I think that might have been before. Well, no, it must have been after Arlong Park, I think.
That might have been on their way. Was it on their way here? Or yeah, maybe it was on their way to the
Reverse Mountain? Maybe.
Somewhere around there. But hey, I'm glad that paid off, that Usopp has like a hot pepper attack that he can use. And then, yeah, he burns up Luffy and saves the day while getting blowed up for like the 8th time.
Most impressive indeed.
Chapter 125, we find Sanji alone on the ship. And I was like, oh shit, I forgot Sanji's even here. Like, motherfucker, where the fuck have you been?
He's like, listen, I've been there before where you get separated from your team by accident. You're kind of sitting there like, sometimes back in the day before we had cellular phones. And in fact, actually, I think we've had this before once. Was when we were going to go to the thrift store the one time and I left my phone at home because I needed to charge it. And you're like, the store was closed and you like left and I was wandering around. So listen, I've been there. Sometimes you just don't make the right decision to go with a certain type of navigation. You get lost and you're wandering and you just go and sit where So I can't fault him entirely for it, but, considering how the gravity of the situation is here after everything they've been going through, he probably should have taken a little more care to pay attention.
Yeah, how big is this island that he can't hear them screaming or any of that? I don't know. I thought Sanji had a radar for this sort of thing, but I guess not.
Yeah, and even Mr. 3, states something about like the howling of a dog that's dying or something like that, or I forget exactly how he phrases it, but obviously the noise is carrying. There's a lot of foliage there that might impede that, but from what he's kind of describing is that they're still able to hear somewhat. So yeah, the fact that he's not hearing anything or not hearing Dory even go down. I mean, he's a pretty big guy for him to like go down to the ground, but hey, you know what?
Yeah, Luffy saw Dory's blood flying from across the island. I guess Sanji just said, I guess something giant just got cut, whatever.
Yeah, he had his hair was down over his eye a little too much, so he was looking out of his other eye a little in the opposite direction.
Meanwhile, Mr. 3, he says, this isn't even my final form. Check this shit out. He gives himself a big candle wax armor, and Luffy, he's enamored by it. He's admiring it, and he gets yelled at by Usopp. What'd you think of this fucking stupid armor on this retarded-looking character?
Well, I kind of thought it looked funny at first. Yeah, it was more of like a goofy thing. That was like my first take.
And it makes it even funnier that Luffy thinks it's cool, is that it looks so stupid.
Well, then Miss Golden Week, he's like, all right, give me some of that paint too, for extra power. And she's like, yeah, no. But then, I don't know, it appears he does end up painting it because he gets a coat of paint. And I will say, it looks cooler with the paint. It looks a little more, it's like if you had a 3D model that you didn't have all the right textures on yet. It's like, oh yeah, like maybe that's all right. But once it's a little more fleshed out, it's like, okay, I see where you're coming from here.
And she must be a very fast painter, because Mr. 3 makes like 20 clones in the woods and they're all painted to look just like him. Did she know what Luffy and Nami look like to paint them perfectly when the clones tricked them earlier?
Well, I guess I'm assuming it had to do with the sketches that the.
But those are
Luffy-
pencil sketches. This is color accurate depiction to trick Zoro and whoever the fuck. Nami. So.
No, well, hold on. No, so I haven't watched. I'm not watching the anime at the same pace that I've read the manga. So I'm
You're probably still stuck on Captain Kuro.
I think I watched them with my cousin. I think we got to like episode 21 or something. So we're a little further ahead. But where I would be curious is if in the anime where there is color versus the manga, if the sketches have any color in them. Or if the sketches are even brought up at all in the anime, perchance.
Oh, yeah. When the Unluckies draw up the Straw Hats, that's definitely in there.
Okay.
But I think it was just like a black and white sketch. I don't know. We'll have to double check. Might be a plot hole, Oda. It's over. She wouldn't know what color they are to paint them, Oda. But maybe she would.
Or she could have had correspondence from Miss All Sunday, perhaps, or something. But in any case, I think she seems like a talented enough painter that I don't doubt her abilities. If she's on par with a man who has this incredible devil fruit power, the wax fruit. She has no devil fruit power. I think she has to have enough innate ability in what she is a specialist in to be able to stay on that same level of ability. Mm-hmm.
So Luffy, he grabs Mr. 3 by the head and just uses like the flame, the eternal flame on his hair, which how does that work? Because he's a candle man, he's just always lit up there, I guess. That's got to be it. Like his hair's the fucking wick. But in combination with Usopp kind of gassing up everything with and Karu running around with a big fuse, they light it all up. The whole candelabra lights up, and our waxed up statue friends, they get severely burned a little bit, but it saves their lives. We get to see Nami just in her bra and horn skirt. How much time did you spend on that panel, Iggy?
Well, not for any particular Nami-related reasons, but I kind of went back over those panels a few times because it was very satisfying to see like when he grabs Mr. 3 by his long hair. Listen, I know how that can be. It's definitely a sore spot for some people who have long hair when you pull their long hair. So he's just kind of like, oh, you know, she just like, oh. And I was like, had it coming. You know what? Dory, he's looking up from Giant Valhalla and saying, haha, you look like a freak and you're getting pulled around by your hair like a little girl.
Oh, you think Dory's dead?
It's my understanding that he seems to be dead, but hey, you know what? If he's not, that's even better. But maybe he's actually just hearing him scream like a girl as he gets pulled around and whipped around by his hair, and maybe he's conscious enough to enjoy that. But I thought he was dead. I'm going to go with that.
I think the only other thing from the main story left that we have not covered is Luffy chasing Mr. 3 into the woods. There's a bunch of clones of him, and he gets the right guess. He says it was based on instinct. He knew which one was real. What do you think of this, Aggie? Is this a weird cop-out to end the fight? What's going on?
It felt like that, yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, they set it up where, you gotta use your brains, you can't just rely on instinct, and then he just immediately knocks him out and goes, yeah, by the way, that was instinct. Yeah, it gave me a little bit like a Marvel movie quip, kind of like fourth wall kind of energy, like, oh, that's the only one thing I have? Oh, guess what? Yeah, but, I mean, we had so much going on.
Think about the other times Luffy has fought somebody super intelligent. We have Kuro and Luffy, ironically, or however you want to put it, he beats him with his head. He headbutts him so hard in the head, he beats him using his head. Here we have a guy who wants to plan ahead and use tactics and everything. So for him to be defeated by an idiot just using instinct, it's sort of the same idea.
Yeah,
it just doesn't exactly explain how Luffy accurately predicted. Like, it's just extreme luck, I guess? Are his instincts that they can predict things that well? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm going to say this. If there's nothing further with Mr. 3, I think there could have been a way to wrap up the fight with him concerning everything that happened at the candelabra. Maybe they could like melt him or something. I don't know. There's all this fire going on. Maybe they have some kind of way. Or yeah, it was an interesting choice that I kind of did a little side eye about it. But hey, there could be something else yet. Maybe he's just like we thought Mr. 5 was dead. They saw Mr. 5's dead. Maybe they knock out Mr. 3 and maybe he's going to make a reappearance in some regard. And also, speaking of people reappearing in some regard.
Are you about to beat me to the punch again?
Well, perhaps chapter 126. Chapter of the volume has a familiar face on that cover, I must say.
A brand new cover story. No more. We haven't even talked about Kobe and Helmeppo the last 2 volumes because it was so boring. Like, okay, we get it. You're being trained by Garp. You're at Marine headquarters. You're doing chores. But suddenly, final chapter of the volume, the 3rd ever cover story begins, Aggie.
Yeah, I gotta say, you know what? Even just based off this single panel, which is just Django touching his top of his head in the forest,
waking up in Syrup Village, like we're taking us back to the past.
Yeah. If I'm gonna rank the cover story so far, this is still ranking above the Lei, Helmeppo, and Kobe Chronicles.
Just him existing is better than. Through story or cover stories, images with really no text on them, we got a whole story about Kobe and Helmeppo becoming brothers and risking their lives to save each other against the Marine fucking Vice Admiral. That's not compelling to you? Just Django sitting there is more compelling?
I guess I'll say, when the Helmeppo Kobe cover stories pre-Helmeppo jumps off of Morgan's ship and goes back and begs for forgiveness. Up to that point, okay, you know what? I'll give it its due. It's better than a single picture of Django sitting in the forest. It was really just everything post jumping off of Morgan's vessel and coming back, begging and training that, it just kind of became it wasn't all that for me. But I'm excited and I'm optimistic that this is going to eventually pan out to be greater. I would hedge my bets on that.
Well, let's get some predictions. Where do you think Django's story is going? And where would you like to see it go?
Well, Morgan, he's still free. He's still out there on the seas. It's not to say that he's not about to pull up on chapter 127. Maybe he's coming to Syrup Village to meet up with Django. Maybe they're going to, just coincidentally run into each other and start fostering some new plans. Maybe they'll go to Log Town and have something going on over there between them, and maybe they'll start forming something up in the next saga here. I really feel like the world is really Django's oyster here. I think he's got essentially total reins of his own life to do whatever he wants to do, but I think probably he's going to start linking up with some peers sooner than later. At least I'll say that much. Leave Syrup Village. I don't think he's going to spend, and I'm perfectly fine with being completely wrong here. I don't think he's going to spend much time at Syrup Village. He's probably going to go about his business and start getting out of there and get on something else. But who else do we have? We got Smoker out there. I don't think they're going to see eye to eye because with Smoker being a Marine and all.
Smoker's on his way to the Grand Line anyway.
Yeah. So I guess, I'm going to say Morgan. That'll be my, if he's going to meet up with anybody, that's probably who he's going to be seeing because, we've got, as well as Alvida and Buggy, they're all headed that direction to the Grand Line. So, or alternatively, maybe he just is going to catch wind of that going on and try to go meet up with them. But I think that Captain Morgan would be my primary prediction because that's who we know is out there right now. And they both have some combat acumen. In fact, he is the one who hypnotized Captain Morgan into becoming who he is. So
they have unresolved beef.
So that's my prediction.
Maybe he can unhypnotize him and he'll be a normal man again and he can repent for his sins.
The fourth cover story is Helmeppo and Kobe are honorable Marines. Captain Morgan, he's been mentally resolved and he's ready to do what it takes. And then maybe even Helmeppo and Kobe can train him to be a Marine of a better nature.
Train Morgan? He gets trained by his own son?
They've had that time to really build up, and, they can give him some moral backbone, some moral fiber that he was missing in his previous pre-Morgan existence, pre-hypnotist existence.
Okay, Aggie, I think we've covered it all. Is there anything else from this volume that you need to get off your chest? Have you noticed that, much like how in the last two volumes we were not that intrigued by the cover story, also Oda's Q&As, the SBSs, have just been nonsense. Like, nothing meaty, worthwhile to talk about. It's mostly just jokes and gibberish at this point.
I would say probably the only thing that really caught my attention in his corner was talking about the Doskoi Panda logo. I like how it's there's like a Wojak that's like seething, and he like does this, and the panda has like his arms down in front of him like he's in like a mid-seethe from like that Wojak seething animation. If there's some Doskoi Panda clothing, I would happily wear that. Other than that, there was something, actually it wasn't an SBS, but there was a note on the program that I used to read my One Piece manga dated November 11th that I somehow didn't notice previously.
What
it says, quote, One Piece manga goes on unexpected hiatus. Speculation. Oda health is not well.
It's fake news. Don't believe that. They're saying that there's not going to be a new chapter till December. It's fake news. They fixed the app. It's still coming out this week. And some people think it was an intentional error because they're trying to catch the leakers who were putting out the chapters early, and they thought if they did this trick, they could sniff out, who's popping up and saying things, because they know the truth that it's not really delayed. But it seems maybe that did not work. I don't know. That's the rumors I read on the One Piece Reddit.
And also, I believe I'd been reading One Piece on the dates of November 11th and possibly November 12th, and it hadn't showed up. That blurb was not there either of those days, so I thought that was strange. But okay, well, it's good to know. I've been fact-checked. But other than that, yeah, if anybody in the comments below knows where I can get some dank Doskoi Panda drip, make sure to let me know, because I'll be rocking that.
Do you have anything you want to plug?
Well, there's a website. It's called rumble.com/c/Eggy White. I'm gonna I have a video, the Eggy Foods Fried Pickle Bonanza, grand return after 4 years.
And that was uploaded as we recorded this podcast. Is that right, Eggy? So now I can go watch it.
Well, I uploaded it to YouTube first, but I'm gonna get it to Rumble today also. So by the time this comes out, unless you're a measly crew who watches it within 5 seconds of it coming out, if it's 3 hours or 4 hours of it coming out, then you'll still be seeing it. But yes, it's there. It's square. It's fair. And I did a little live gaming last night. It was a little scuffed. I think I need to update some of my hardware or something. Or not my hardware, but my programs. It was a little laggy, but we're going to get it figured out. You can't always hit a home run every time, but make sure to tune in either way.
We will see you guys next week with Volume 15 of One Piece. Do you think we will get out of Little Garden, or do we have to wait a whole year to reset our log pose?
Well, the fact that the final panel is Sanji picking up the phone call from Mr. Zero, that leads me to believe that I think I had somewhat of a prediction last time that they weren't going to need to spend the entire year because of Baroque Works interference. Somehow that was going to get them what they needed to be able to continue. I'm going to stick by that. I still don't know exactly if it's going to involve Mr. Zero, or maybe the wax hut there is going to have some kind of tool or something that's going to be able to help them. But I think it's going to be something along those lines, because I don't find it likely that they're going to stay there for an entire year. Although maybe they're going to help Brogy, get his stuff right for a little while maybe. But I think they'll be out of there in Volume 15.
Stay tuned, folks. And more importantly, let's find out what Django is up to. I can't wait. Is the next episode coming out in November or December? I don't know. But stay warm out there, folks. Peace, people.